welcome into Central Alabama Voice. Real people, real stories, real voices. I'm your host, Lizzie Arbogast, and I am joined today by Dr. Chante Ruffin and Mr. Raheem Ruffin. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing great. How about yourself?
Awesome. I'm awesome. So one of the things that's kind of near and dear to my heart coming from outside the area is what I like to call transplants. I don't know if that's a great word for it, but, you know, those folks who are from somewhere else. I'm from Virginia originally by way of Pennsylvania, and I came to Alex City 3.5 years ago, and I always get asked, how did you end up here in this small town? Why are you here? And I know that you guys fall into this category. So before we really dig into it, tell me a little bit about both yourselves, what you do, where you're from, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, I'm from Tuscaloosa. And I work for myself, train kids in baseball, softball lessons, and outside of that, just raising 4 kids. Like I said, from Tuscaloosa. I was born in Syracuse, New York, actually. And if you see me around, you see me in orange. It's not Auburn orange. It's actually Syracuse orange. So, and I get a lot of people from behind. They'll give me a war eagle, and I'll turn around, they see Syracuse, and they're like, oh man, I thought you was a war eagle. So that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. So you're a northerner like me.
Well, see, that's a whole nother story. I never lived in Syracuse. I only spent like 3 months there.
Oh, okay. And then, so did you come to Alabama when you were that little, or?
No, my mom is from Tuscaloosa. She was in Syracuse when she went into labor, so I ended up being born in Syracuse. So.
Oh, interesting. All right. And how about yourself, Doctor?
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. My family was originally from Columbiana, Alabama, and we moved to Birmingham when I was 3 years old. So that's pretty much where I grew up. And right now I'm currently, a pediatrician, just opened my own practice in December, Heritage Pediatrics. So as Raheem said, we've been really busy with raising 4 children who are very active in their own things, and plus, running our own businesses. So.
How old are your kids?
14, 10, 9, and 4.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that does keep you busy, I'm sure. So how did you guys, first of all, how did you guys meet and come together, and then how did you end up here in Alexander City?
Well, our story is different, but where they are similar or the same. We met in college, Stillman College in Tuscaloosa,
awesome,
Alabama, and moved to Mobile together, then moved to Pensacola, and I'll let her take it from there.
So he's right. We met in college, Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, and I started medical school in Mobile and finished my residency in Pensacola. And at the time, in trying to decide where we would end up after residency, Dr. Tyler had contacted me about interviewing here, and we knew about Alex City because we had friends from here, and I had traveled here for band competitions, and we knew it was close to home. So that's pretty much how we ended up in Alexander City.
That's awesome.
And each of our kids were actually born in different cities. So one in Mobile, one in Pensacola, one in Montgomery actually, and one in Alex City.
That's awesome. So how long have you guys been here?
10 years.
10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So at what point, so I came for the same reason. I got a job here and didn't necessarily know I was going to stay here forever. And I mean, you can't predict forever. But, when did you guys kind of realize, hey, this could be home and where we want to raise our kids and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. When she interviewed the first time, for me, the first time she interviewed, I felt like it was home. Like she said, we had been away from, I guess, Tuscaloosa and Birmingham for so long, and just traveling home to see family members, especially once we started having kids, came kind of tedious. So we interviewed here in Alex City. We're still closer to home, but still far enough where family would have to call before they came. Still couldn't pop up on us. And like I said, the first time she interviewed and the second time kind of sold it. The school system we were really impressed with because education, of course, is important to us. And just the people that Dr. Tyler had to meet with us and to eat dinner with us and just kind of show us around. I mean, we were I mean, at least I was sold, so, and still sold on it. Love Alex City.
Right, I agree. It made an impression, you know, on us when we came. You know, everyone was very friendly, and I didn't feel like it was, you know, like a show. I really truly felt, you know, that this was a small town and everyone loved each other, and it felt like a, you know, a big family. So that was important to us, and not so much as being in a big city, busy city, you know, to raise a family. So we wanted kind of the small town feel, and that's what we have. So
yeah, absolutely. I remember when I came here for my interview, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, you know, some people took me out to dinner and showed me some of the nicer, you know, places in the area, the lake and stuff like that. And it was like, oh, well, this could be home. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about opening your own practice and why you decided to do that, and to, you know, then not only just work in Alex City, but start your business here in Alex City.
Well, when I came to Alex City, I didn't come with the intention of opening my own practice. Mm-hmm. I knew eventually that was something that I would want to do, whether it was in Alex City or, you know, back in Birmingham, because when I look back over my memories, especially in my senior book, I did draw a picture, you know, of myself in front of my own clinic. So it does sound kind of cheesy, but it really is cheesy, but it really did happen.
Cheesy's okay.
And, you know, just, you know, working with Dr. Tyler and Dr. Tora, which is a wonderful group. You know, I've always, you know, I have my own strong opinions, you know, about things, and, you know, have things the way I want to do things. And there was nothing wrong with, you know, pediatric associates, but I just felt like, you know, there was a bigger calling on my life. And sometimes you have to, you know, just step out and do those things on your own in order, you know, for things to happen. So that's kind of how it came into play.
That's awesome. And you feel like doing that in Alexander City was the right move for you, for your family, for your practice?
I do. We were already settled here, and our, you know, kids love the school system, and we love the community, so it only made sense, you know, to stay here and do it. So And Raheem, I know you're really involved with the youth as well on the sports side, and getting into the political realm now. So tell us a little bit about, one, the office that you're running for, kind of why you want to get involved in that way, and what your involvement with the community is.
Well, like you said, youth sports. Coaching our youngest daughter, which is our third oldest child, in softball. And I've coached our two middle kids in basketball. I've coached my oldest son in soccer. What else have I coached? I've coached T-ball a couple years, and I think that's it. And of course, I train kids in hitting lessons and all things softball and baseball related. And I don't know, kids have always been near and dear to me. My senior year of college at Stillman College, I was nominated and chosen as the Humanitarian of the Year. And I won that award by doing a program at one of our elementary schools with big brothers and big sisters. So kids just, I mean, from the beginning, I mean, I'm a big kid myself. And I tell people all the time, people who don't know us, and if they meet me by myself, and then they find out I'm Dr. Ruffin's husband, and it kind of throws them off, because like they thought that he would be this really serious guy. And I'm serious when I need to be, but for the most part, I just try to laugh and make other people laugh and make other people's days better. If I can make somebody's day better, then I always try to. And just a political thing, it's a natural progression for me. Like I said, I've always served people. So this is what I feel like is a natural progression. And running this year, I actually had a good friend of ours. She wanted me to run for District 6. But then when she found out that I was not in District 6, she was a little bit disappointed. But by that time I had already committed to it, in which, funny story about that, District 4, District 6. So the reason she thought I was District 6 is because the line actually ran through our backyard. And
that's so funny.
And the city has actually had to redraw the map and redo the right wording on our city's website. So even if I don't win, at least I got the map straightened out.
See, there you go. So you're running for District 4 City
Yes,
Councilman.
I am.
Okay. And, you know, obviously you must care a lot about the community, right? And from not being from here, I mean, where does that, you know, care and concern and compassion for this particular community come from, especially from not being from here? Do you know what I mean?
Just like she said, the people here in Alex City, I really feel like everybody here is genuine. I mean, the people, I've not met very many people here who aren't genuine and genuinely care. Everyone here is extremely helpful. It seems like anytime this community has a crisis, you don't have to find people or look for people. You probably have to turn some of them away because I mean, they actually show up, and they show up in numbers. And you know, we got a lot going on nationally right now, and I think Alex City, we've had a couple of, I guess, I want to say protests. It wasn't really a protest here, but we met in the park, and I thought it was extremely peaceful, and there were people from all sides, and everybody voiced their opinions, and there was no butting of heads. So I just feel like this community, we handle things a lot better than other communities probably handle those things. And I also think this is a small community, but it's a small community with a big community feel to it. And since I've been here, and I have these conversations with my wife all the time, Alex City is a great city already. And I feel like with all the great history that it already has, I mean, I have a degree in history, so history is my thing, but I feel like there's more history to be made in Alex City, and there's a lot more growth that this city, I feel like it hasn't scratched the surface of what it can be. And I want to be a part of scratching that surface and getting it to where I think what I've envisioned it to be. So that's my spiel. Like I said, I mean, we really love Alex City, and people ask us all the time, how y'all end up in Alex City?
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, I really love Alex City. I do. I feel like this is, I mean, like I say, she opened her practice here, so, I mean, you don't open a pediatric practice if you don't plan on being here a while. I mean, we really love this city. I mean, it's hard for me to explain how much we do, but we really do love Alex City a lot.
Awesome. So you kind of alluded to this, but obviously there has been a lot of racial tension, a lot of political tension throughout the country, and you guys are both have served as role models for minorities in this community. I mean, how important is that to you guys, and to set examples for the future of Alex City, especially those minority children and people who are looking to, you know, like you said, do good things for the city in the future?
You want to go?
I'll let you go. I'll chime in.
On our list of priorities, being role models to minorities, but to kids as a whole, it is very important to us. I had a short stint of substituting here in Alex City for a while, and I would always wear a tie or bow tie when I subbed, and a lot of the minority kids would ask me, why am I wearing church clothes to teach? And I told them, or tried to explain to them, that these aren't church clothes. These are clothes that an adult should wear or strive to wear to work. And there's nothing wrong if you have a job where you don't wear a suit and tie to work. But in this setting, I wanted to dress and be a role model to them in every aspect of the way I spoke and the way that I dressed and the way that I carried myself. And as far as the racial tension goes, if you go to my Facebook page, every now and then I try to stay away from it because I get so emotional. But where my sticking point for that is, like I said, I have a degree in history, so I try to stick to facts and actual things that happen. I don't really debate with people over how I feel or how they feel. I try to stick to facts and what actually happened. And that's why I love history so much. I mean, really no debating history. It's written, it happened. And
either is or it isn't.
there you go. It is or it isn't. And I think a lot of our divide in this country comes over people debating with their opinions instead of just dealing with the facts and what happened. And this happened. Okay, how can we move forward? It's kind of hard to move forward based on feelings because you and I, of course, come from different backgrounds. So
Absolutely.
the way that you feel about something and the way that I feel about something may never mesh. But what can mesh is when we deal with history and what happened. Okay, this happened. Now, what can we do to make sure it doesn't repeat itself? And what can we do to make sure it is better for those in the future? And back to the role model thing, my kids, I try to be a role model for them first and foremost. And sometimes they probably feel blessed to be our kids, but then sometimes they're probably like, oh my God. Because we do hold them to a high standard.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Well, we tell them, we understand you're going to make mistakes.
Right.
But we tell them that we expect them to always do their very best in everything that they do and to always treat people with kindness. And at school or wherever they are, we always tell them, just because your mother is Dr. Ruffin, don't expect any special treatment because we don't expect them to get special treatment. Treat them.
And they don't.
And we tell the teachers, don't treat them any different than you would treat anybody else. Hold them
Right.
to the same standards that if they mess up, punish them. And quick funny story, I was subbing one day and I was coming into the gym at Stevens and our oldest daughter was a student at Stevens and she had gotten in trouble and she was at the table and she was having to sign up to write sentences the next day for talking. And I waited till she left out of the gym with her class and I went to the coach and I asked him, I said, is Ron in trouble? He was like, yeah, she got to write sentences. I was like, how many does she have to write? He was like 50. I was like, no, he said 100. I said, add another 100 to it. And the next day when she found out, she came home, she was like, Daddy, did you add 100 to it? I'm like, I sure did, because you shouldn't have been talking. So never had that problem again.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that protester, or kind of like you said, it wasn't really a protest necessarily. But how do you feel like Alexander City in particular has dealt with or has handled some of these racial tensions and things that have happened over the last several months, even years, compared to some of those bigger cities like Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, where you guys are from? How does it compare living in a small town and being, Black role models versus what it might be like in a larger city?
I feel like Alex City was open to the conversation. They were willing to get together and listen and let the voices be heard. So I did really appreciate that. And I was really thankful seeing, some of our, white friends come out in support. They said, we want to be here. We don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just show up and show that you care. So I do think that was one difference as compared to some of the bigger cities where things kind of did get out of control. You want to add to that?
Well, what she said, and I received countless text messages and Facebook inbox messages, and people sent cards to her office and flowers, and people were extremely supportive. And
Great.
I'm kind of an honest and frank person when I speak about this stuff, because like I said, I'm actually getting emotional now, but I think for this country to change, more white people have to step up, and just being a good person and being silent doesn't change anything.
Absolutely.
You have to be good, and as John Lewis said, you have to get into good trouble. I mean, you have to not be afraid to stick your neck out there and speak up, because up until the 8th grade, I'm really an introverted person. I know I talk a lot, but I'm really shy. But when it comes to this stuff, I don't mind speaking up on it. And there again, my opinions are never pro-black or anti-white. It's always there's right and there's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, so I play baseball, and on a lot of baseball teams, I've been the only black person. And I'm on an adult travel ball team out of Pensacola right now. I play once for 1 week, go to Fort Myers and play baseball, and I'm the only black person on the team. And when I make the comment that I'm the only black person on the team, my white teammates will be like, "We didn't even notice you were black." And I'm never fearful of anything when I'm with those guys, because
Yeah.
I know they love me, and I love them dearly. And for me, like I said, everything is right and wrong, good or bad. And I tell, my white friends all the time, if there's ever anything that they're going through, I'm gonna be there. And it's never gonna be, well, they white, that's not my issue. They're my friends, and I love them, and they're like family. So that's, like I say, my take on it is, and I wasn't raised as this is black, this is white. I mean, my parents, my mother especially, she's probably too loving, to be honest. She's an extremely loving person, and I've taken that from her and my dad as well, just extremely loving people. So, I got a double dose of being extremely loving. So, I really care about people, and I really don't like to see anybody struggle or just go through, because life is hard, and it's not my job to make life harder for somebody else.
Right.
I feel like it's my job to make it somewhat better if I possibly can.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of it is just opening the conversation, like you
Right.
said, listening to each other and talking to each other is a good first step anyway. So you guys have talked a lot about, your relationship with Alex City and your involvement. What are some of the things that you love most about this area? What are the biggest, positive things about living here for you guys?
I think the school system is a very good school system. Our children have thrived within the system, and their test scores their state, national test scores do reflect that. So they're doing a good job with the education here. I love the youth sports. It's very important here as well, and love getting out, watching not only our kids, but other kids as well compete and participate in sports.
And the people.
And the
Yeah.
people.
The people here, like I said, I can't say that enough. And I guess we do non-traditional stuff. Our daughters dance with Miss Barbara, and like the trails and all the stuff that are in Alex City. Like I said, we try to expose our kids to the non-traditional stuff. So, in Alex City has a lot to offer in those areas. And like I tell people all the time, we live in a small town, but you put a full tank of gas. We can get to Birmingham, Montgomery. We can get to Tennessee in an hour and a half, 2 hours. Get to Atlanta in 2 hours. So, we are smack central Alabama is the perfect description, because we are central to so much stuff. So, like I said, we get a small town atmosphere and feel, but the time we want a big city, we just fill up the tank and drive. And we live in a cul-de-sac, and 4 houses in our cul-de-sac. We get out there, all the houses, and we shoot basketball, play kickball. All the kids get out there and play. It's just fun. for us.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you mentioned is the people. You know, it was so funny. My boyfriend and I, he's from, he's born in New York, but like you, I mean, he lived there for 6 months or something, came back down here. And we took a trip up to D.C. where my dad lives, and we're walking down the street, and he's, hey, how you doing? Hey, hi. And no one's answering him. I'm like, they're not going to answer you. We're not in the South anymore.
Not in Alabama.
But, you know, people around here, they know their neighbors, and,
Exactly.
you know, they take care of each other, and that's such a huge thing. You know, I think that in order to grow, right, especially Alexander City, that's what we all want, is to thrive. You know, we need more people like us, people that are from out of town who come here and, you know, want to start a family here, want to start a business here, want to become involved in politics. How do we get those people, right? Like, what's the future? And maybe this is a, you know, more political question. You know, how do we bring in those people that are, you know, young and want to really thrive here and help the city thrive?
I mean, I think of course, you're in media, so, I mean, media campaign and just, I mean, blitz, and get it out there and let people know about Alex City. And, you know, we have a lot of visitors from out of town that come here for the lake and to come to the park. So we just got to make sure we put our best foot forward always while we have, you know, it's like when you have visitors to your parents' house, you know, they always tell you to go wash your face, brush your teeth, put on some clean clothes, and act like you got some sense. So I think just always making sure, and which already is, I think our city does a beautiful job of keeping our city beautiful and clean, and, you know, just put our best foot forward for, you know, people from out of town. And I mean, if anybody spends a weekend here, and I mean, if they go to the lake and spend a week on the lake, but then if they actually come into town to the restaurants and get to meet the people, I mean, there's no way you cannot fall in love with this city. I mean, it's just impossible not to. And campaign-wise and people, I did an interview at the Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things that I actually want to do is a lot of our best and brightest go off to college. And I actually want to get to the point where, as they're matriculating through school, we make sure we take the very best care and show our kids that we love them. Because just like we want the best to come from out of town to come here, there are other cities that want the best and the brightest to come to their town.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure we bring ours back.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't want all of your best and brightest you don't want to train them, in which then they go off somewhere else, which if they go somewhere and be successful, then we've done our job. But, you know, they know the city, it's where they grew up. Why not make sure we have opportunities for them to come back and be successful here in Alex City?
Yep.
And as a business, you know, woman, what would you say in terms of bringing more businesses in? How do we do things like that?
Kind of piggyback off, you know, he said make sure, you know, when people come to visit that our areas are clean. You know, I think with the addition of the new schools and giving the facelifts to some of our older schools, you know, that will attract people here too if we, you know, make sure we focus on, we have the best education here, we have the best doctors in town, we have the best, you know, business people in town that will attract people and keep them here. So
awesome. And let's end on this. What about your future? You know, where do you see yourselves? And you said you have a 4-year-old, so you've got 14 years until she graduates high school. Where do you see yourselves in 15, 20, 30 years? I know it's hard to, like I said, you can't predict forever, but what's your ultimate goals?
I don't plan on leaving Alex City. I plan on being here in Alex City. And this week, joking with our kids, and once I told them I was running for city council, of course, they don't really know what that means, and I kind of had to explain it to them. And I jokingly told them, you can just start calling me Mayor Ruffin. So that's my goal.
That's awesome.
To eventually run for mayor of Alex City and continue to serve the people of Alex City. And if I could go back to a question you asked earlier.
Absolutely.
About the protest and why did Alex City fare better than other cities? Well, when you have a small town and people know each other and you know people's hearts and their intentions, you can have conversations openly and people can say truly how they feel. But I mean, if I know you and you ask me a question, I don't look at that question as like, how dare you ask that question? When I know where you're coming from,
Right.
I can, and because I can, my inbox and Facebook, I mean, people ask me open questions, but I know those people and I knew where their intention was. And I felt like it was my job, knowing them and to help to educate them. I answered those questions openly, and I received their question, they received my answer, and we still friends.
Let me ask you this: would you, do you want people to, especially like white people, myself? I mean, how do you want us to open those conversations or ask those questions? I mean, are you guys? I mean, not you in particular necessarily. You don't want random people messaging you, but what are some suggestions you might have for opening those conversations or asking those questions to make sure that both sides can be heard or both voices can be heard?
I think just being honest,
Yeah.
and just asking the question. If, like you say, in our circle, if you're comfortable around me, and of course you're comfortable asking that question, but if you come to say, Chante or Dr. Ruffin, I really want to know the answer to this. Do you mind? And most people don't mind, answering the question if they truly know you're coming from a genuine place.
Yes, I would much rather you ask and not assume, because
Right.
assumptions are what keeps us from progressing. And
Yeah.
I've always been like I said, I play baseball, and I just I've been around a lot of different people, and like I said, I'm so goofy and serious at the same time. I just rather people would just come to me and ask me openly, because guess what? If I had a question that I wanted to ask you, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you, because I know my heart and I know it's from a genuine place, and I never, ever, ever want to assume. And I mean, if you just break that down, it's a relational thing. I mean, we've been together 20 plus years, married going on 18, and yeah, we have our communication issues, but the only way that we stay together is we have to communicate, and sometimes we have to have hard conversations. Yeah. But those hard conversations are what keep us together and what grows our marriage. And in order for us to grow this country and our relationships, we have to be open to having hard conversations, and you have to be receptive to those. You have to be receptive to what people say and the questions that people ask. And when I use the word ignorant, I don't mean it in a bad sense. I mean it not in the denotation, but the connotation form of it. A lot of times these conversations, they don't go far because of ignorance. And you ask questions from an ignorant place, you're probably going to get an ignorant response. And I tell my kids all the time, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes.
Right.
So.
Well, I think, and you bring up that good point about being in a small town, everybody knows, you either know somebody or you know somebody that knows somebody, you know? So it is kind of not necessarily easier to have the hard conversations, but when, like you said, people are genuine, it makes it a little bit more comfortable or more open. So,
I forgot what the original question was.
Your future. Oh, I was going to ask you, Dr. Ruffin, your future in Alex City.
So, Heritage Pediatrics is growing fast. So, I plan on being around for a long time if it's the Lord's will. Our girls, Ryan and Riley, are both interested in the medical field.
Awesome.
They go back and forth between doctor, nurse practitioner, but I do envision them, taking over my practice one day. So that's the plan.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys being on with us today, and I appreciate you loving this town as much as I do. It's definitely a great place to live. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to add, or you want people to know about you, or anything like that before we sign off?
I think most people know us. They don't
Yeah.
have assumptions about us. They know that the Ruffins are genuinely good people, fun people to be around, down to earth. I think they love us.
I mean, that's
I think they do.
that's pretty much it. And I'll just say what you see with us is what you get. There's no facade. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I said, not one day have I regretted moving to Alex City. I mean, we really love this city and want to see it be the best that it can possibly be and be a model for other small towns around this country. So,
absolutely. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys being here with us today. Again, I'm with Dr. Chante Ruffin and Raheem Ruffin, running for District 4, right?
yes, ma'am.
District 4 City Council. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We will be back in the coming weeks with more transplant. I got to find a better word for transplant.
Yeah, we'll think of a word.
We got to think of a word. It sounds too medical and like if there's something
does.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
We don't want that. So we appreciate you guys listening and watching us today, and we will be back soon. Again, I'm Lizzie Arbogast with Central Alabama Voice.